The RB engine is a 2.0 Euro 3.0 L straight 6 4-stroke petrol gasoline engine from Nissan produced from 1985 to 2004. Both SOHC and DOHC versions have an aluminium head. The SOHC versions have 2 valves per cylinder and the DOHC versions have 4 valves per cylinder. All cam lobes move only one valve. All RB engines have belt-driven cams and a cast-iron block. Most turbo models have an intercooled turbo, and most have a recirculating factory blow-off valve to reduce compressor surge when the throttle quickly closes. The Nissan RB engine is derived from the 6-cylinder Nissan L20A engine which has the same bore and stroke as the RB20. All RB engines were made in Yokohama, Japan where the new RB30ET is now made. Some RB engines were rebuilt by Nissan's NISMO division at the Omori Factory in Tokyo as well. All Z-Tune Skylines were completely rebuilt at the Omori Factory. Bore and stroke. All Nissan engines follow a naming convention, identifying the engine family, displacement, features presenter See the list of Nissan engines for details. The stock dimensions for the Nissan RB engine, RB20-2.0L, RB24-2.4L, RB25-2.5L, RB26-2.6L, RB30-3.0L, D indicates a dual overhead cam as opposed to a single overhead cam, E indicates the individual engine ports are electronically fuel injected, S indicates the engine is carbureted, T indicates the engine has a factory-installed turbocharger, TT indicates the engine has factory-installed twin turbochargers, P indicates the engine runs on LPG. Liquefied petroleum gas, RB20. There were a variety of 2.0L RB20 engines produced, RB20E, single cam at 5600 rpm, 167 to 181 Nm at 4400 rpm, RB20ET, single cam turbocharged at 6000 rpm, 206 Nm at 3200 rpm, RB20DE, twin cam at 6400 rpm, 181 to 186 Nm at 5600, RB20DET, twin cam turbocharged at 6400 A 264 Nm at 3200 rpm, RB20P, single cam, RB20DETR, twin cam turbocharged, 210 PS at 6400 rpm and 245 Nm at 4800 rpm, Neo RB20DE, twin cam 155 PS, improved low-end torque, reduced fuel consumption and emissions. The first RB20ET DET engines were fitted to the HR31 Skyline and the Nissan 200ZR, produced from August 1985. The early twin-cam engines are generally referred to as red-top engines because they have red cam covers. The early twin-cam engines featured the NICS injection system, while the later twin-cam engines used DCCS. Later versions which used DCCS engine management, discarded the 12 tiny runners for 6 much larger ones. Laurels, R32 Skyline and Cefiros used the second series RB20E DET. This had an improved head design, and used the ECCS injection system. These later motors are known as silver-top engines. RB20DE camshaft duration 232 degree in, 240 degree x lift, 7.3 mm in, 7.8 mm x. RB20DET camshaft duration 240 degree in, 240 degree x lift, 7.3 mm in, 7.8 mm x. The RB20DET was used in the Nissan Skyline 2000 GTS and was limited to 800 units. The RB20P is the autogas LPG version of the RB20, but with 12 valves. RB24S. This is a very rare engine, as it was not produced for the Japanese domestic market. These were fitted to some left-hand drive Nissan Cefiros exported from Japan new. Mechanically, the RB24S combines an RB30E head, RB25DE-DET block and RB20DE-DET crank with 34 mm height pistons. The resulting 86.0 ohm bore and 69.7 ohm stroke combined to form a 2,428 cc inline-six engine. This engine used carburetors instead of the Nissan ECCS fuel injection system. It is able to rev harder than the RB25DE-DET as well as being almost the same displacement as the RB25DE-DET. A common modification is to fit a twin-cam head from other RB series motors while retaining the carburetor setup. The standard single-cam form produced 141 PS at 5,000 rpm and 20.1 kgfam of torque at 3,000 rpm. RB25. The 2.5L RB25 engine was produced in four forms: RB25DE, non-turbo twin-cam 140 kW per 190 PS at 6,000 rpm, 255 Nm at 4,000 rpm, RB25DET, twin-cam turbo, Neo RB25DE non-turbo twin-cam 147 kW per 200 PS at 6,000 rpm, 255 Nm at 4,000 rpm, Neo RB25DET. Twin-cam turbo at 6,400 rpm, 362 Nm at 3,200 rpm, RB25D and DET engines produced from August 1993 also featured NVCS for the intake cam. This gave the new RB25DE more power and torque at lower RPM than the previous model. From 1995, Series 2 engines, both the RB25D and RB25DET had a revised electrical system, and the turbocharger on the RB25DET, S2, had a ceramic compressor wheel rather than aluminium. The most obvious change to the system was the introduction of ignition coils with built-in igniters, therefore the coil igniter that was on previous models was not used. Other changes were, different airflow meter, engine ECU, cam angle sensor and throttle position sensor. Mechanically Series 1 and Series 2 very similar, the only mechanical difference would be the cam shafts, as the Series 2 cam angle sensor's shaft that goes into the exhaust cam is slightly different. This is very important to not mistake. In May 1998 a NEO head was fitted, which enabled the engine to be classified as a low-emission vehicle engine due to their lower fuel consumption and emission output. The NEO head featured solid lifters rather than hydraulic, revised camshafts, with on-off solenoid variable VCT, used a hotter 82 degrees Celsius thermostat, model-specific coil packs and a revised inlet manifold, in particular the RB25D NEO, which had two inlets going into the inlet manifold. The combustion chamber of the head is smaller, so GTR spec connecting rods are used to compensate as well as model-specific pistons. The turbo received the larger OP6 turbine, which some came with steel compressor and turbine wheels, where others had the nylon plastic compressor wheel and ceramic turbine wheel. Some also used an N1 type oil pump and had the oil pump drive collar on the crank revised to help cope with the breakage problems associated with fast, high revs. All in all, they are quite a different engine in their own right, a culmination of 20 years of Nissan RB engine building rolled into one. The non-VCT, non-turbo RB25DE was fitted to the R32 Skyline, the VCT turbo and non-turbo was fitted to R33 Skylines and the WC34 Stagea. Earlier 34 Skylines used the non-NEO RB, later models used the NEO version. R32 Skyline RB25DE camshaft duration 240 degree in, 232 degree x lift, 7.8 mm in, 7.3 mm x. R33 Skyline RB25DE camshaft duration 240 degree in, 240 degree x lift, 7.8 mm in, 7.8 mm x. RB25DET camshaft duration 240 degree in, 240 degree x lift, 7.8 mm in, 7.8 mm x. RB25DE NEO camshaft duration 236 degree in, 232 degree x lift, 8.4 mm in, 6.9 mm x. RB25DET NEO camshaft duration 236 degree in, 232 degree x lift, 8.4 mm in, 8.7 mm x. Note: an RB25 non-neo exhaust cam will Bolton and RB20DE head with no mods, RB26DETT. The RB26DETT engine is a 2.6 Allen Line 6 engine manufactured by Nissan, for use in the 1989 to 2004 Nissan Skyline GTR. The RB26DETT engine block is made from cast iron, while the cylinder head is made from aluminium. The cylinder head contains 24 valves, and uses a dual overhead camshaft setup. The intake of the RB26DETT varies from other RB series motors in that it has 6 individual throttle bodies instead of a single throttle body. The engine also uses a parallel twin-turbo system, using a pair of T28 type ceramic turbochargers set by the wastegates to limit boost pressure to 10 psi, although the Skyline GTR has a built-in boost restrictor to keep boost under 14 psi. The first 2.6L RB26DETT was rated by Nissan at around 280 horsepower at 6,800 rpms and 260 lb-ft at 4,400 rpms. By the end of production, power levels had gone up to around 276 horsepower at 6,800 rpms and 289 lb-ft at 4,400 rpms, not only because of developments and modifications to the engine, but also because of the gentleman's agreement made between Japanese automakers to limit the advertised horsepower of any vehicle to 280 picoseconds. The RB26 is widely known for its strength and extreme power potential, much like Toyota's 2JZ GTE engine. It is not uncommon for 600 horsepower to be achieved without modification of the engine internals. With regular maintenance, many of these engines have been driven well beyond the 100,000-mile mark, with a few heading toward 200,000 miles. With extreme modification, the RB26 motor is shown to be capable of power in excess of 1 megawatt. There is a common oiling problem with the pre-1992 R32 RB26 motors, as the surface where the crankshaft meets the oil pump was machined too small, eventually leading to oil pump failure at high RPM. This issue was resolved in later versions of the RB26. Aftermarket performance parts makers also make oil pump extension drives to rectify this problem. RB26DETT can be found in the R32, R33 and R34 generations of the Nissan Skyline GTR. Besides minor cosmetic updates and ECU fine-tunings, changes were made in the R34 generation to ball-bearing T28 turbochargers as opposed to journal-bearing turbos, as well as the addition of the newer NEO-type cylinder head. Originally the R32 GTR was planned to have a 2.4L RB24DETT, and compete in the 4000 cc's class. This was when NISMO was going through the process of designing the R32 GTR to be a Group A race car. But when the engineers added the AWD system, they found it made the car heavier than expected and as a result, much less competitive. NISMO made the decision to make the engine a 2.6L twin-turbo, and compete in the higher 4500 cc's class, resulting in the RB26DETT known today. The RB26DETT was used in the following cars: Nissan Skyline GT RB-NR32, Nissan Skyline GT RB-CNR33, Nissan Skyline GT RB-NR34, Nissan Skyline OTEC GTS4 ENR33 GTS4 chassis and naturally aspirated RB26DE used, Nissan Stagea 260 RSW GNC34E to the first. RB26DETT N1. The RB26DETT N1 is a modified version of the RB26DETT engine, developed by NISMO for Group A and Group N motorsport. NISMO found that the standard RB26DETT engine required too much maintenance for use in a Group A or Group N race car and subsequently designed the N1 block. This was first used in Bathurst, Australia. NISMO balanced the crankshaft to a higher specification than stock, as the RB26DETT engine experiences vibrations between 7,000 and 8,000 rpm. The engine also received improved water and oil channels within the engine block. The pistons and top piston rings were also upgraded to 1.2 ohm. The N1 engine also has upgraded camshafts and upgraded turbochargers. Although all versions of the RB26DET TN1 engine use Garrett T25 turbochargers, the specification of the turbochargers changed through the three generations of the RB26DET TN1 engine. The R32 and R33 versions used journal-bearing T25 turbochargers. The R34 RB26DET TN1 engine used Garrett GT25 turbochargers. The biggest difference between the turbochargers used in the N1 engine and the standard RB26DET engine is that the turbine wheels in the turbocharger are made from steel, rather than the ceramic used for the standard RB26DET turbochargers. The ceramic turbine wheels are found to be very unreliable when used at high rotational speeds, inducing higher centrifugal forces. With the advances in manufacturing technologies such as sealing and material processes, the N1 engine is theoretically said that when fuel and boost levels are modified, it is able to produce in excess of 1,900 bhp without any modification to the engine block or rotating assembly. The NISMO RB26DET TN1 engine block uses an 86 ohm bore which can be bored up to either 87 ohm or 88 ohm. The N1 block is stamped with an identification mark of 24U, whereas the standard RB26DET block is marked with 05U. The RB26DET TN1 block is compatible with all GTR engine bays. Only two of 32 GTR Bathurst cars were stripped after the competition. Parts were shipped back to Japan where it's believed some were sold and fitted to Holden Commodores in New Zealand and Australia. RB20ET. This is the engine used in the Nissan Skyline GTL Z-Tune built by NISMO. It uses the stronger RB26 GT500 block, modified with NISMO parts, bored and stroked to 2.8 L. The end result was the RB28Z2, which produces 510 bhp and 540 Nm of torque. RB30, four models of 3.0L RB30 were produced from 1985 to 1991, RB30 SGQ petrol, carburetted single-cam 100 kW at 4,800 rpms, 224 Nm at 3,000 rpms, RB30 EVL Commodore, fuel-injected single-cam at 5,200 rpm, 247 Nm at 3,600 rpm, RB30 EGQ Petrol R31 Skyline, fuel-injected single-cam at 5,200 rpm, 252 Nm at 3,600 rpm, RB30ET Ville Commodore, fuel-injected single-cam turbo at 5,600 rpm, 296 Nm at 3,200 rpm. This motor was produced for use in the Skylines, Petrols and Wrights bought by Holden because the Holden 202 powering the Holden Commodore could no longer satisfy tightening emissions requirements, and with all new cars required to run on unleaded petrol by 1986 a quick replacement was needed. Nissan Motor Company sold the RB30E to Holden for the VL Commodore. Because the radiator is fitted lower in relation to the engine in the VL, there is an increased likelihood of airlocks forming in the cylinder head, causing this to overheat and warp. This was less likely in the R31 Skyline as the radiator is mounted higher. The engine proved to be very reliable apart from this issue. The RB30S was found in some Middle Eastern R31 Skylines and in some Nissan Patrols. The RB30E was found in R31 Skylines and VL Commodores in Australia as well as in South African R31 Skylines. The turbocharged RB30ET was found only in the VL Commodore and consisted of a lower compression RB30E bottom end, more powerful oil pump, T3 Garrett turbocharger, 250 cc injectors and a different intake manifold. The motor itself is still popular today on the Australian drag racing circuit. Nissan Special Vehicles Division Australia produced two limited models of R31 Skylines, the GTS1 and GTS2. These contain slightly more powerful RB30E engines, containing longer opening duration cams and better flowing exhausts. GTS1 RB30E, injected single cam at 5,500 rpm, 255 Nm at 3,500 rpm, special cam profile, special exhaust, GTS2 RB30E, injected single cam at 5,600 rpm, 270 Nm at 4,400 rpm, special cam profile, special exhaust, piggyback computer, valve porting, RB30DE. These rare engines were used in the Tommy Kaira M30 based on the A31 Skyline GTSRA modified RB20DE. Head was bolted onto the RB30E block. It delivered 177 kW at 7,000 rpm and 294 Nm at 4,800 rpm. RB30DET. Nissan did not produce this engine. It refers to a turbocharged engine using an RB30E short block with the twin-cam head installed from another RB series engine. A common hybrid in Australia uses an RB30E bottom end mated to RB25DE, RB25DET or RB26DET cylinder head and turbo. The RB25DE cylinder head from the A31 Cefiros C33 Laurel or A32 Skyline can be used. The RB25DET head is also used, however an external oil feed must be fabricated for the variable cam timing on the RB25DET, and the oil galleries at the front of the engine are misaligned. The variable cam timing may be disconnected altogether. It may be necessary to reduce the size of the oil restrictors in the block and machine a full-face oil pump drive collar onto the crank with the use of a twin-cam oil pump. The fitment of a twin-cam head from any of these engines onto a standard compression RB30E bottom end gives an ideal compression ratio for a mild to moderately modified street turbo engine, making the conversion popular amongst those who would otherwise convert their RB30E to a high compression RB30ET using original ET bolt-on externals. Although it has a larger displacement than the RB26DET, maximum possible horsepower is less, as the RB30 block lacks the RB26 block's internal bracing, and consequently cannot rev as high due to harmonic issues at 7,500 rpm. To compensate, the RB30DET produces more torque at lower revs due to its longer stroke. However, they have been known to reach engine speeds up to 11,000 rpm with extensive balancing and blueprinting. There is also an RB30DET kit manufactured by SOHC of Japan, which bolts an extension on top of the RB26 engine block, and fits liners, to give an 86 Elm or x86 Elm stroke. It is available as an assembled short block, containing billet chrome molybdenum crank, billet chrome molybdenum H-beam connecting rods, forged pistons, and costs $1,500,000 yen. RBXGT2 and RB20ET. The RBXGT2 is an engine specially made for the NISMO 400R. The difference between this engine and RB26DET is that the engine is bored and stroked, which results in 2771 cc. Engine produces 450 PS at 6800 rpm and 47.8 kgfam at 4400 rpm. This engine was manufactured with a reinforced cylinder block and cylinder head, metal head gasket, pistons with cooling channels, forged crankshaft, forged connecting rods, N1 turbine with reinforced actuator, high-flow air cleaner, stainless downpipe, and low-air resistant sport catalyzer, most of which were not offered for the RB26DET. RBXGT2 engines competed in Le Mans 24 Hours race, Pikes Peak, and other forms of motorsports. GT500 and Z-Tune engines are also based on Reunique's design, although later built by NISMO's Omori Factory. Reunique also made over 20 RB20ET based on the A33 RB25DET. These engines were ordered by Prince Nissan Dealership Network for a special edition A33 GT25T called 280 Type Mr. The engine was built for high torque and limited to 300 picoseconds and 261 lb-ft of torque. Stroker kits. There are many stroker kits available for RB engines. Achievable stroker displacements for RB engines, RB20-2.2, 2.4, RB25-2.6, 2.7, 2.8, RB26-2.7, 2.8, 2.9, 3.0, 3.15, RB30-3.2, NITO, 3.3, RIPS, 3.4, spool imports, See also, List of Nissan engines, Nissan, references. External links, JDM spec engines, Nissan RB26DET engine.